It's finally Big 12 game week for the Utah Utes and Texas Tech Red Raiders, and this Locked On Utes and Locked On Texas Tech podcast is going to cover the matchup and tell you everything you need to know leading up to the massive showdown on Saturday.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes and Locked On Texas Tech your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time listening to either of our shows, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. All caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistersill, host of Locked On Utes. Excited to be joined by the host of Locked On Texas Tech, Chris Level. Chris, I'm so happy we got a Big 12 game to talk about this weekend, and it is a massive one going down in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, JT, good to be with you, man. And I'll just tell the folks that are watching us, JT is such good people that his dad is a. Can I mention this?
Like, go for him. You're all good.
Okay, so your dad is a commissioner for
the Big Sky Conference.
The Big Sky Conference. Okay, I want to make sure I got there's so many conferences that have switched, and they're all It's like I once had that memorized. But to the Tech fans out there, I'm sitting there courtside in San Francisco last year for the NCAA tournament, and Texas Tech is about to take on Arkansas in the Sweet 16. And I see this nice guy walk up to me, and he extends his hand. And he's like, "Chris?" I said, "Yes, sir." Usually I'm like, "Do I want to be Chris right now, or am I in trouble? Did something wrong?" But it was your dad, that, and I think you had kind of set that up. But anyway, I appreciated that. That was very nice of him to come say hi. And he's on the, I guess, like the kind of the selection or the tournament committee,
yes,
the tournament, and all that stuff. So anyway, that was good stuff. So that was like our worlds colliding here. But my man JT, he's good people. So there you go.
I appreciate that, Chris. You're one of the best we have here at the network. Really excited to have you on and talk about this game, because neither of us, especially now, like UCLA is so bad they fired Deshaun Foster. Like, neither of us have played anyone. We have not played anyone. Utah played in a difficult atmosphere in Laramie, Wyoming, but that Wyoming team, I don't think they're great. And the Utah beat themselves in so many ways in the first half that you see it by the second half, they score on all 6 of their touchdown drives. It's not even a game. Basically, the offense for Wyoming couldn't do anything. So I'm really excited to get to learn about these teams, because Chris, I do think it's a fair question to ask is, how much do we know about either of these teams, or what do we know at this point in the season? What do you feel like you know about Texas Tech right now?
Yeah, JT, I think that's what I guess I was on a show, one of the Locked On shows last week, and I said something and it got kind of pulled out, and it didn't really give the full context of what I was saying, but it was much of the same conversation about, because I think I basically said either team could get beat badly or get beat soundly, however you want to phrase it. I think I used the word thumped, which has been brought to my attention many times. But because we really don't know, and I don't know if we know much more. I will say this: I think Utah's resume is clearly more impressive than what Tech has done to this point, simply because you've done it twice away from home. And I think that, though, the reality is, Wyoming is probably because I was mistaken when I said a lot of times, but when I said this, I made the statement that UCLA was probably going to be the best team that either one of these two teams would have faced before they played each other. That is not true. I'm not so certain I'm not so certain that Kent State and Oregon State could have beaten UCLA too. But I think Wyoming and Laramie, the Red Raiders saw that movie up close and personal 2 years ago. You get up 17-0 in the first quarter, and then it just kind of the wheels semi fell off, and you ended up losing a game in overtime. This is a much different Texas Tech roster than it was 2 years ago. Different coaches and all the things, but I would say that I have a healthy respect for going up to Wyoming. It's a different place to play. It's they have a lot of tradition up there, and then they probably a lot of similarities to how Utah plays the game. Hard-nosed, blue-collar, all the things. So I think we know that Utah is very good up front on offense.
Yeah.
I think we know that Texas Tech is really good up front on defense. I think both teams have really good quarterbacks. I think we are not sure though what it looks like when they start going against each other, and like, okay, are there problems there that we're just unaware of that we didn't see? Or, okay, no, this is because everybody can't be good when you're going to somebody's got to be better than the other, or is that just a stalemate? I don't know, but I guess we will find out. And I guess I would in turn ask you, like, what do you think we know about, the Utes or these two teams in general?
Yeah, I think starting with Utah, I think this is one of the best offensive lines in college football. I think at a minimum right now, it's a top 10. I think they've looked good. That doesn't mean that Tech is not incapable. Like, Tech could win the line of scrimmage. They absolutely could with the talent on the defensive line that they have here. We'll talk about the offensive line in a moment for Tech, because I do think that's something we don't know right now with how good they can be with some of the transfers and still some new pieces. Kind of, I know I listened to you guys' show. You talked about that they're still changing out. But Utah offensive line, I feel good. We know Devin Dampier is a clear upgrade at quarterback from what Utah had last year. How good is he? That remains to be seen against the rest of the P4 competition. And right now, it seems like this Utah defense is I'd also say they're really good. Are they one of the 3 best in the Big 12? That's got to be proven by going against Big 12 competition. But I think for Utah, they have a really good defense once again. I look at Tech and I say, hey, you got a quarterback that I really like, but there's still a question of, hey, is he ready to lead this team to a conference title? Similar thing with Dampier, right? I think you have incredible skill position talent. That's something I feel like I can say confidently. I think it's one of the best defensive lines, not just in the Big 12, maybe even in college football, with how good that group looks overall, what Texas Tech is dealing with there, and obviously have some incredible play at linebacker too. So that's where I feel like we're at right now, how I feel about these teams. But Chris, I want to ask you really quick also, like, how big of an issue is it? I'm genuinely surprised that Texas Tech, I think every team should at least play one non-conference road game. How do you feel about not testing yourselves outside of Lubbock once yet, and now you're going into a top 25 matchup with a team that is historically very good at home?
Yeah, so here's how this happened. They were not originally supposed to play Kent State. This was a game that was scheduled 2 years ago. And you paid them way more than you probably should have, but you were kind of stuck because the fundamental decision in Lubbock had been made. They had put $250 million into the south end zone complex. And so I think they just had decided, look, we have to play 7 home games. We need to generate revenue. We need to put our fans in the stands at least 7 times. And so they were supposed to go to Colorado State and play 2 weeks ago. That's what was originally, but they bought themselves out of that. They added Kent State. Here we are. So you end up with because to be fair, Joey's first road game in each of the first 3 seasons was a trip to Raleigh, North Carolina on a Saturday night. They lost to NC State. The second year, we mentioned the Wyoming game. It was the first game, I think, of the season, and I think you went up there and lost in overtime. And then last year was game 2 of the year, and you lost to Washington State and John Mateer. And boy, he played well that day, but it wasn't just the Red Raiders that he's good against. He's kind of maybe like a Heisman front runner at this point. And so that's kind of how we got here. But I don't disagree with your premise. And it's funny because you've got so many new pieces on your roster. They don't have any of that scar tissue or that PTSD from these early road losses. They don't know any different. And so, but I'm with you in that when you go on the road, you're going to deal with adversity. And how do you handle it? Noise, something bad's going to happen. And, how do you handle it? And I'm curious. I think it sounds like you're curious. I'm sure Coach McGuire and his group is curious too, but probably both of these teams, they haven't really, neither one of them has dealt with any adversity. The closest thing the Red Raiders have dealt with is 2 rain delays. Okay. And yeah, you go to Wyoming and it's
a level of adversity. I'm not gonna say it's like high adversity.
Yeah. You're not stressed or
too much.
Yeah. It's like, there's plenty of time left in the game or whatever. Cause yeah. And so I think that probably everybody involved here is probably curious how the other or how them internally, okay, how are we going to handle this? When a turnover happens, when somebody busts a coverage, and what's it going to look like? Are we going to communicate? Are we going to start pointing fingers? Are we going to be like, okay, hey, we're good. We're not going to freak out. I don't know because we haven't seen this yet for either group.
Yeah, I think the way I compare Utah's adversity in Wyoming would be like that whole the old story of the tortoise and the hare, except for if the hare actually was able to win the race, because let's say the hare like sprained his ankle, so it's like, oh, things got a little harder, but I'm still way faster than the tortoise, so I'm going to be fine. Just like the Utah knew, hey, we weren't scoring, but but we are stopping them so much, there is no way they're going to be able to do anything. We're fine in that regard. It was a bad first half for Utah, but I felt really good about them not being upset and getting the offense going based on everything that went wrong in the first half. But, this Utah offense, they're going to have to get it going against an impressive Texas Tech defense so far on the year. And this matchup, especially in the trenches, doesn't just have our eyes. It has some NFL eyes on it. We're going to tell you what we're talking about in one moment. Today's Locked On Utes, Locked On Texas Tech crossover is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes and in less than 60 seconds. I love checking projections. Like, hey, is Josh Allen going to go for more or less than 270 passing yards, or Saquon Barkley for more or less than 1 rushing touchdown? And the best part, even if only one of my picks misses, PrizePicks invented the flex play, so you can still double your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps, no spaces, to get $50 instantly in your lineup after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks is good. It's good to be right, and you can be right now and earn money on it with PrizePicks. Chris, you and I did a crossover show at July, August, whatever it was, talking about this Utah-Texas Tech matchup. And even then we said this matchup in the trenches with several Stanford players that are going to be draftable. Talk about the Tech defense versus the Utah offense. This Utah offensive line with 2 projected first-round offensive tackles to start the year is something that's going to earn a lot of hype. And the NFL started to take notice, and I think all the college football world the people who really love this sport are going to be really fired up to see how that plays out in the trenches, Chris.
Yeah, and I've got some lists on my desk that are like the Blesto draft list, which they grade and everything. And I think this includes these folks have a draft grade, and then there's like this range. I think like Texas Tech has 14 people on this list. I think Utah has 7. I think it's the most in the Big 12, and it includes like. It includes like you could be in the 7th round, or you could be like an undrafted free agent. So it includes those guys too. And I, you and I touched on this back when we were talking in the summertime about just the game within the game with this offensive line and this defensive line. Don't take our word for it on, hey, they're really good, or these are picks and this and that. This is what the NFL folks, these are unbiased opinions on looking at what these tackles are and some of the interior guys for Utah as well, and then what Texas Tech has been able to put together defensive line-wise. And like how those matchups go, I'm told there will be 50-plus NFL scouts, personnel director, GM types, like all total. 50 plus there watching. And I would guess a lot of the eyeballs will be on like that particular matchup. And we kind of thought this was going to be the case a couple months ago. There's other NFL type guys on this field too, but because you want to, if you're trying to evaluate, this is the film that you're putting on. Like I want to see, it's what we were just talking about with these teams. What's it look like when they deal with adversity? Well, when you have elite edge or elite tackle and they have to go against each other, like how do they handle it? What do they struggle with? Do they get frustrated? Do they dominate the other guy? I don't know. I mean, but this is what you're looking at when you're the next level folks. So there's not just a lot on the line with this in the conference standings and for these two programs, but there's a lot of line on the line with these two, with a lot of these players and these two teams, with some of these individuals here that are trying to play at the next level, because I mean, I'm not saying that this is the end all be all, but like some of this film, is it the difference between being a second rounder or a fourth rounder or a first rounder or a third rounder? I mean, I don't know, but it's worth mentioning because all these NFL folks are not showing up just to have a bag of popcorn or anything and just kind of enjoy nothing against Salt Lake City. But I mean, they could be in a lot of games, but they've chosen this one.
You're telling me Spencer Fano won't get drafted because he didn't give up a sack against Cal Poly? You sure about that, Chris?
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe,
yeah,
just maybe.
Yeah,
but
that's
this is going to be so much fun to see. And really quick, I think before we dive into specific matchups, even O-line, D-line, I'll give a quick rundown of the Utah offense. You can do the same for the Tech defense just to fill everyone in. Utah's offense at a glance. Devin Dampier, a tremendous dual threat quarterback. Last season was the only quarterback in the country to rush for 1,000 yards and throw for 2,500 yards. Was that at New Mexico against G5? Yes. So far, he's looked the part. This offense has been efficient against a, albeit not very good, UCLA team. Utah was 16 for 18 on third down. Large part of that, Devin Dampier's dynamic dual threat abilities. You mentioned you guys played Washington State last year. Wayshawn Parker, their freshman running back, he came to Utah, and he's looked really good along with Naquire Rogers. So it's a good 1-2 punch in the backfield. Those guys both over 4 or 5 yards per carry. The Utah offensive line, we already talked about. 2 tackles are the marquee ones, but all 5 starters back, and the interior guys have all improved. Although if I'm Tech, I am attacking Utah center Jaron Kump, who I do think is the weak link on that unit. On the outside, still waiting for guys to emerge. Dallin Bentley, and even at JJ Buchanan, their tight ends have been solid. Ryan Davis was at New Mexico with Dampier next year. They have a solid connection. But some of the other guys, Larry Simmons, Tobias Merriweather, they've made a big play or two, but they haven't been consistent enough yet for Utah. And I'll say one last thing. Utah does use Smith Snowden, a cornerback that goes both ways, as long as another tight end guy every once in a while. So Utah gets creative on offense. But that's the Utah offense. They've been good so far, but they will be tested. And what do you think of this defense, Chris?
Well, and I was going to mention Smith Snowden is definitely one of these draft pick type guys. He's definitely on the radar. I don't know how he's projected at the next level, maybe as a nickel corner, maybe as much as anything. But yeah, it's interesting that he's playing both ways. But before we move on to the Red Raiders side of the ball, I'm curious. Okay, remember you and I talked a lot over the summer because I guess it was back in the spring.
Yeah.
True or false? Were they really interested in Micah Hudson? Was that just rumor? Did he ever actually take a visit out there? Because the reason I bring it up is one, it ties these programs together, but it appears they were looking for wide receiver help.
Oh yeah.
And that's maybe like where the weaker portion of this, because they're loaded up front. The quarterback seems to be legit. You've got depth at running back, but when they drop back and they're in 3rd and 8, it's been going to Ryan Davis, RD, as I know Coach Whittingham calls him, and they have that connection with the Dampier because they came from Mexico together. But is that the part that you're just not real sure about on what it looks like if you are trying to play catch up or you're in 3rd and long? Okay, what now?
Absolutely. I think you look at it, Ryan Davis has been that guy, and I've been impressed with that tight end Dallin Bentley I mentioned. But the transfer, yes, there was legit interest there. I don't believe a visit ever took place, so a lot of that did not end up materializing. As I said, I believe a visit did not end up taking place, but there was interest. Utah wanted to have him out there. It just didn't end up happening. Now he's with Texas Tech. And Utah, I think that's part of the reason Smith Snowden is on offense, right? You see a cornerback who's now playing both ways because of what he's able to do. The 2 top receivers, I would say, for Utah outside of Davis are a guy in Tobias Merriweather, 6'5", 200-pound Notre Dame Cal transfer wide receiver, and Larry Simmons. Those were both guys added after the spring portal. And the timing has just been a little bit off with them. Like every time it's like, oh, he's close to making a big play in Merriweather. He'll make one every other game so far, but it's not consistent enough. He hasn't been the wide receiver 1 presence that we thought he would be on the outside. So that is definitely the weakness of this offense. It is the wide receiver core right now. And you need some more guys to step up there for Utah, Chris.
Yeah, you need some juice on the outside. Yeah, so it's so interesting we're talking about this because this is like a clash in styles, and we'll get into the converse of all this whenever we do another show together. But as far as this defense, this is where a lot of the money was spent. This is where a lot of the infusion of players needed to take place. This was a bad defense last year, and Coach McGuire was frustrated. He's a defensive guy at heart, and made the decision to move on from a guy that has been really good in college football. And Tim DeRuyter has coached it as a head coach at Fresno State, was a DC at A&M. We got Coach Von Miller, and he was a DC at Oregon. He developed Kayvon Thibodeau. These are first-round draft picks, and then he did the same thing here early on in his tenure. And Tyree Wilson ended up going to the Raiders as like the 7th pick in the draft. So he's got a lot of – but it's a complex scheme, and it just wasn't working. And they were pretty young last year. They weren't good enough up front, and they were like 120-plus ranked nationally in pass defense. So made the change with the coordinator and brought in Sheil Wood from Houston. And then the investment was made. We need to really upgrade the defensive line, and we need to upgrade the secondary. We're going to leave linebacker alone.
Yeah.
And understandably so. But we were, so I think between those two groups, 10 new players all came in at semester. I think I'm right. So basically your 4 starting defensive linemen, and then one of Houston's starting defensive line or tackles is now a backup at Texas Tech, and AJ Holmes. Mm-hmm. So they just got, and then all the people that played last year for them and that probably would have started this year, these are all now second string along with AJ Holmes or third string. So that has been what is like, there's a lot of bells and whistles and a lot of different personnel groups they can play with. They want to go big, they want to go fast, they want to do whatever up front. But then the secondary that they brought in 5 DBs. Mm-hmm. So your 2 starting corners, Dante Balfour and then Bryce Pollock, who had 2 interceptions last week. Those are the 2 starters. And then Amir Boyd. And then Cole Wisniewski is one of the safeties. He's like 6'4", 220 from North Dakota State, which really big-time FCS program, if you will. So that's really where a lot of the attention and the need, because they just weren't good enough. It was they were embarrassingly bad and still were 1 win away from playing in the Big 12 title game last year. But this was the trenches and just defense in general was exactly why they weren't good enough to secure one more win. They were up against TCU in Fort Worth last year, 31-14, I think, with like 6 to go in the third, and then couldn't hold on. TCU outscored them at the end, but it was like if you'd have gotten one more win, you could have been playing in Arlington because you had all the tiebreakers. You beat both the teams that played for the title last year in Arizona State and Iowa State. So, but I am fascinated to see, is it legit? Is it real? I know they're better. There's no doubt that bar was low, but because what I'm curious about is if I'm Sheil Wood, do I just say, hey man, we're going to put 7-8 in the box, and we're just going to play man coverage on the outside because we've got these 6'3" corners out here that we brought in that we think are good. And we're just going to say, we're just not going to let you beat us running the football. But I don't know what you'll see, or is it a mixture of, because all these coaches on both of these teams and so many coaches around the country, if you've been in a situation like either head coach and you haven't really had any adversity, you've probably kept a lot of things to yourself. There's a lot of bells and whistles and wrinkles with your scheme or personnel groups or whatever it is that you have been sitting on. And now is the time that you'll start to show some of that. How much do we see? Does it really matter? I don't know that, but that's what's fascinating about conference season starting, because now it's show and tell for everybody.
There's so much fascinating about this matchup. We're going to continue to break it down too in one moment. Today's show also brought to you by our great friends at Gametime. College football is so back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime. The app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is genuinely what you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about college football games as low as $25. They have great deals like a panoramic view from your seats. You know exactly what kind of a view you're getting yourself into when you make your purchase. Also, those zone deals. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. It's all caps, no spaces, Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Chris, this matchup is going to be amazing because a lot of what you just mentioned, Texas Tech saw an issue on the defensive side of the ball and they attacked it in the transfer portal. The reason, and it was the reason you guys weren't in Arlington, you said your defense let you down. The reason that a Utah team that had the second best defense in the Big 12 last year that lost a ton of one-score games wasn't there is because of, in part, the offense, but more so than anything, bad quarterback play. Utah invested in that quarterback. They brought in his offensive coordinator and reunited him here. And then there was like, hey, we even after the spring practice window, like you mentioned, it's like, oh, we still don't have enough. We got to go back into the portal and get more guys there. So that's where, to me, this matchup is so fascinating, right? Like, can Devin Dampier shake tackles against a really strong tackling linebacker core? Who is going to win that battle in the trenches? Does Utah have enough guys that can get open? Because Tech, it should absolutely pack the box, and they got to spy Dampier. You got to do everything you can to not let him scramble too. Devin Dampier last year, Chris, led college football in yards per carry at 7.5. Not Jeremiah Love, not all those other guys. Devin Dampier, because he is that elusive. I think Utah's offensive line gives them a slight advantage over Texas Tech in this game. Also, just say the fact that Utah's at home and they get to work in a quiet environment when they're on offense is also another major thing for Utah to me, but I could definitely see Tech winning this side of the ball, Chris.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, the key here is that I think if you're Texas Tech, you want to get a lead and make Utah chase you, because then that's when you have to start maybe getting out of your comfort zone, and you can't. I view this as a limited. True or false? Well, let me just phrase it to you this way: when Utah joined the Big 12, who do they most remind you of other programs in the Big 12? The way Coach Whittingham runs his program, runs his team schematically, who do they remind you of? Because I have two programs that they remind me of that have been Big 12 members for a while.
It was Oklahoma State, but they're kind of in the toilet right now. So
yeah, no, don't say Oklahoma State. Yeah, to me, I see a lot of Iowa State and Kansas State with the way Utah runs their program. They're physical. They may not always have the most talent, but they squeeze everything out of it. They're developmental programs. They're extremely well coached. They're tough. They win at home, and they both play really good defense. And this is kind of what Utah seemingly looks like from afar, because it's the first time. The rest is the first time that these two teams have played each other since, I think, 72 and 73. So This is not like, this is not a program that you've crossed paths with in many, many years. But again, and the reason I bring up Iowa State and Kansas State is because anytime you play those guys, it's a limited possession game, typically. Mm-hmm. You're only going to get the ball so many times. It's very much a contrast in styles. Texas Tech wants to speed it up and play fast on offense and like, here we go, let's do this thing. And then Utah slow it down, may huddle, may do some different things and kind of sit on the ball a little bit and run it and pound you. And all those different things. So that's why I say if you get a lead against these teams, it puts them in a bit of a bind typically. Mm-hmm. And that's why first and second down is really much bigger than third and fourth down, in my opinion. Because if Utah is popping off 4 or 5 a clip and they're getting in third and short, you're in trouble. If you keep them behind the chains and it's 3rd and 8, more often than not, you have to like your chances. I can't sit here and tell you who has the advantage. I have no freaking idea. I have no idea. And my honest opinion is, what happens if this isn't really what decides it? What happens if it's somewhat crossed out here and both sides kind of get some licks in, and it's really how does Texas Tech do against Utah's defense? Maybe that's what really, I don't know, but that's got to be what Texas Tech's goal is here. Is you've got to be good on first and second down. And are you good enough to? Hell if I know. I mean, I really don't know. I just know you are worlds better than last year, but that's a low bar, and that the NFL people really like your pieces. But is it when you go toe to toe here? Who wins in a tug of war? I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet you that both sides get some licks in.
Oh, I 1000% agree with that. I think this is going to be an incredible game. And I will just say really quick to your point, Chris, on how key first and second down are. I mentioned Utah was 16 for 18 on third down against UCLA. You know why? All of those were 4 yards or less. Everything was on the table, especially that running game where they can just lean on you and lean on you. If you can get Utah on third and long, that is a recipe for success. Consistently asking this wide receiver core to get open play after play, making Devin Dampier repeatedly beating you with just his arm, not letting him scramble. I do think is the way that Texas Tech gets a win. But Chris, what you mentioned that I do think is really important here is that you got 2 elite teams here. I think this is a big game for the Big 12. I don't think they want to. I don't think we're going to get a blowout, but I think the Big 12 should not want one either. I think this is an awesome showcase to the league, and you are hoping you have an absolute thriller of a game that comes down to the wire because some Big 12 teams, right? Arizona State, Kansas State, they've taken a little bit of a hit. To me, there's 3 teams right now I view as contenders in the Big 12. I need to see a lot more from a freshman quarterback down south in Provo before I put BYU up there. I'm looking at Utah, I'm looking at Tech, and I'm looking at Iowa State right now. I think that it's been very important for the Big 12 to have a good game here. And I think this is a massive opportunity and a showcase for the league. And it's a big thing, too, that Big Noon is choosing another game involving a Big 12 team. They were already at Iowa State. They're coming back again. I think this is a big opportunity for Utah, Texas Tech, and the Big 12 as a whole on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is monster for the Big 12 conference. I mean, you're watching NFL games over the weekend, and they just just showing you, hey, Utah, Texas Tech coming up this weekend, Big Noon kickoff. I mean, the whole thing, and nobody gets more eyeballs than the NFL does. Nobody, except for maybe somebody like Pamela Anderson way back in her day. But this is this is a good showcase not only for the league, but I think that the style of football is a good showcase. I think that it also shows Brett Yormark's goal of kind of making this more global, in that this is a new member of the Big 12 that's hosting this. They're ranked in the top 25. I say global and more national is what I meant to say. In that you're in different time zones and all the things. I love that. They've really tried to embrace because there's 8 new additions to this league, some of which have not really done a whole lot.
Cough, Cincinnati, UCF, maybe Houston will give them some time. They're doing okay in football right now. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give Houston a pass just because, I mean, they played for the national championship game in one of the 2 major sports, and they're going to be maybe the number 1 team in the country in the preseason for basketball this next year. I can't say anything negative about Kelvin Sampson. I mean, the guy's just gold. He's phenomenal at what he does. But yes, there's a couple of programs there. I think because right now Utah is doing what they were, because Utah was picked to win this thing last year.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Chris. Thank you.
Well, no, but it was a reputation from what they had done, and you're kind of seeing why maybe they were picked last year, and then the quarterback gets hurt and all those things. But I just know that when the 4 corners were added, had Brett Yormark and the leadership of the league, had they been able to add the 4 corners the first time, if this was win in reverse, these other 4 institutions may have never been added at all. And I don't know if any of us know what that ultimately looks like, but I just know that if they would have been able to add two school institutions from Arizona, and then obviously Colorado and Utah. And speaking of, I'll be really interested to see Colorado and what long term, because they have been well worth their what they did last year and the eyeballs. They had a Heisman Trophy winner and all that. But I just long term, this is going to be really interesting to see kind of where the Buffalo program goes, because basketball wise, they're just non-existent. They don't have baseball and all that stuff. But anyways, this is a big time showcase for the league, and I'm excited about that.
I'm excited. Well, it's going to be a blast. And hey, Chris, this is a lot of fun talking to you. Want to do it again tomorrow?
Yeah, sounds good, man. Looking forward to it. Yes, absolutely.
We are going to be doing another crossover tomorrow. Still a whole other side of the ball to preview. How about what's at stake for these teams in this matchup specifically? We got a lot more to dive into. Locked On Utes, Locked On Texas Tech crossover. If you're in the market for a second listen, just go listen to the opposite show. If you listen to this one as we're getting you ready for game day. Chris, thank you again for coming on, man.
Keep hope alive, people. Yes, sir.
That's going to do it for this crossover edition of Locked On Utes and Locked On Texas Tech. We'll see you tomorrow.